Hello, good evening. Good evening, welcome. My name is Kwabena. Welcome. I want to share with you briefly about entrepreneurship, about the mind, about the processes that you have to go through, and hopefully you win with your business. And some few thoughts that I can share with you. We are coming from an economy where largely our people have been programmed to think and look for jobs, and that's the dominant way of looking. That's the way we think. We've been groomed to go to school and pick some courses, and when you finish that school, you have to look for job. And the people who have big positions and big accolades and big titles are seen as very much successful. And so when you start as an entrepreneur, when you start and you are thinking of, a lot of us would have to start businesses. Not so much we want to start, but that is probably the only option left for us. It's not like the jobs are there. You are looking at a country where maybe 3 to 400,000, people are being churned out every year who are looking for jobs. Now, the government only employs just about 500,000, and a lot of them are in retirement or are due for retirement, which they will not go. And so every year we are producing a lot of these guys, male, female, everybody coming out looking for job in an economy that industrialization is that little. The only option left for most people, without connection and all those, is for you to start to do something. And so my argument is that you just have to prepare your mind, prepare yourself, develop your thought, because for most people, that will be the option. The others, which may even have jobs, may eventually find themselves with their jobs collapsing, with them being made redundant, being fired. Oh, anything at all can happen. This is developing economy. The other day the dollar is just going. It means that some people's business will be touched, will be under threat. So how do you develop yourself? How do you go through these processes? And how do you keep going when everything else seems like it's falling apart? And so I'm talking about you are as developed as an entrepreneur, as your mind is developed. You are strong, you are tough, you have the leverage as your mind is developed. The difference between men, the difference between people is what they have in their mind. What you know is what you are. Whatever you do, you know it. So when somebody is beating you, when somebody else has better results, it's so much likely that they know something that you don't know. And if you don't know it, there's no way you can do it. And for most of us from this part of the world, if anything that has been left for us is how to develop your mind to win in this life, how to develop your mind, your mental processes to win in this life. How do you equip yourself? Because look around. The difference between the humans and the animals is the brain the humans have. Everything that you see around that was created by human beings is because they used their mind to create them. There was a way that they understood something. That's why they're able to put some things together. So I'm talking about you are as developed as your mind is developed. The entrepreneurship journey is tough, it's difficult, it's crazy, it's mind, it's very, you eventually have to be a mad person for you to keep trying, even when you're failing. And the statistics are there. Most people, when you start a business, in they say in proper economy, in 10 years, just about 1 to 5% of those businesses that were started 10 years ago will still be in existence. Most of them will not survive at all. Most successful entrepreneurs have started not less than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 businesses. Most of them succeed in their fifth, sixth, seventh trial. They try, they keep trying, they fail, they fall, they keep trying. So it's purely development. And one of the major tools that you have to develop as somebody who is trying to build a business is your mind. is your mind. What you're thinking about, what you're processing, the books you're reading, the seminars you are going, the conferences that you're going. Those are the things that are going to separate you from the other people. And so if you leave your mind like anybody, because the journey that you're dealing with as an entrepreneur is complex, it's complicated. You are trying to pick an idea, build the business instrument around it, and possibly employ 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, and even enter into thousands. But before you get in those levels where your business starts to make sense, you must keep your mind intact. You must keep your mind intact. And the only way you keep your mind intact, the only way you keep trying, the only way you don't give up, the only way you keep pushing when everything says that it's not going to work, is when you have superior processes, mental processes, superior mental processes, where the same thing that happens to somebody will happen to you, and you are able to interpret it in your favor. And you can't do that if you don't have strong argument. And you do that by continuing, by continuously developing your mental processes. The way you think is so much important. And so your life is as an entrepreneur, is as developed. Every aspect of your life, whether it's the finances, whether it's the relationship, whether it's the business, whether it's the product that you're working on, whether it's the market that you're developing, everything would have to be as your mind is developed. When there is an argument, how you look at the argument. When most people in our country, unfortunately, will laugh with you, will joke with you on the trivialities. But when it comes to things that can really improve your life, the things that you really need to push towards your goal, because every human being is as satisfied as they are living on purpose, as they feel that their life is making some kind of meaning. You become frustrated when you think that you are not going anywhere with your life. Yet most people will just only laugh and joke and smile with you when it is on trivialities, it's on the sports, it's on the entertainment, it's on the politics. Everybody has an opinion on that. But when it comes to things that you have to do to get scaled, to get equipped, and to keep pushing, and your business, it will not move when your mind is occupied with entertainment, when your mind is occupied with the politics, when your mind is occupied with all the things that you don't need. Your business is going to make sense when you start to focus on the things that will equip you. And you cannot build a skill when you don't have the right knowledge. And so my argument today is that your life as an entrepreneur is going to grow, it's going to expand, you're going to mature, so long as you keep on to develop your mind. And so the difference between me and the other guy who is so much successful is because they know something that I have not yet known, and they have tried some things that I have not yet tried. They have the skill set to get results in areas that I don't have. That's why they are more successful than me. The moment I trade my life to get the right knowledge, to get the right skill, then I will be in a position to get results. And so for most people, they think that they will succeed anyhow, anyway. That I've come to find out is not necessarily so. Life, much of it is intentional. Your resource is intentional, whether you know it or you don't know it. Whatever resource that you have now, whatever state that your business is, any results that you're getting, any successes that you're getting, if you're enjoying failure, you cannot say that, I didn't plan for it. Because you were not intentional, that's why the business is still struggling. You may think that is something somewhere that is fighting you. Most often it's not. Most often you are just enjoying the skill level that you have developed, the mental maturity that you have developed. Most often, those are the things that are responsible for the results that you're getting in your life and as an entrepreneur in your business. So the moment you come to accept that the results reflect the kind of skill set that I have, the kind of mental processes that I go through every day, the kind of knowledge that I have, the kind of maturity that I've acquired, the moment you start to accept that as your reality, that is the point that you start to know that maybe I must acquire more to get more results. Because if you don't do that, you'll be frustrated. And life is that short. The way you are spending your time, Every one of us has 24 hours a day. The way you spend it, the way I spend my time, cumulatively, over 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 10 years time, the way we've been spending our days, those are going to be responsible for our results. So let's say I get up in the morning, or maybe I sleep for, let's say, they say that 24 hours in a day. So how many hours do you use to work as an entrepreneur? How many hours are you using to sleep? How many hours are you using to develop your mind? Those that you're doing continuously, consistently, they are going to be responsible for the maturity, for the development that you get to have. So if you have 24 hours and you are sleeping 8 hours, and let's say you work 8 hours, you have another 8 hours. For most people in this world, they sleep, they go to work, and they have fun. That's why they live average life. The other few people, the few percentage of the world, the 1 to 3, 4, 5% of the people who are running the system and creating opportunities and creating wealth and riches and building empires, the way they spend their time, especially at the beginning, is so much different. When everybody else is sleeping, they are building themselves. When everybody else is sleeping, they are working. When everybody else is sleeping, they are reading, they are learning, they are questioning things. That's why they get to develop their mind. And so if you are sleeping 8 hours and you are working 8 hours, the other 8 hours, what are you using it for? Are you using it to watch video, Chinese film, all these things that you are watching it, but you are not getting any results. You are listening to the radio, or you're watching TV, or you are going for all these things that a lot of us waste our time on. The last year, how you spent each day from January to December. This year, how you have spent January to March every day, how you have regulated your time. They have become the reason of the development of the mind that you have now. And so one of the best tools that you can use to develop your mind is you have to be intentional that I'm going to read something about the business that I'm doing every day. It's because the business involves a lot of things. It involves management of people, it involves product development, it involves systems, it involves the finances, it involves a lot of things. Every day, what you are learning, not only in what you're doing, but what you're learning, they come together to predict the successes that you're going to enjoy in the subsequent years. And so if you are going to get different results from the ones that you have been gaining, if I'm going to get different results from the ones that I've been getting, then I have to sit down and plan my life. I have to know that, okay, if I'm sleeping 8 hours, probably, once I'm still struggling and I'm not that much successful, I'll probably have to sleep maybe 6 hours or 4 hours, something like that. And maybe I have to read more books. So maybe they say that the most successful CEOs, they read on the average of 4 books a month or more, So if I'm not that much successful, then probably I have to beat them, because the more knowledge that I'm getting, the more content that I'm developing, the better my decisions are going to be. Because this life, much of the things that you're going to decide on, they are coming from the things that you know. You cannot make decisions out of the knowledge that you don't have. So the more you're expanding your thought pattern, the more you're expanding your knowledge, the more you're reading about the things that you need. Because some people read, some people go for conferences, some people go for seminars that don't really have direct benefit of where they need to see progress. So your business is struggling. Why are you reading books? Let's say some people are reading books on things that will not help their business. Not be intentional. I need to learn about finances. I need to learn about this process. I need to learn about this market. I need to learn about the team. I need to learn about this. Wherever you're struggling, it's likely that you have limited knowledge in. And so you have to plant that seed. Knowledge is a seed. You have to plant it there. You have to use your time to get it and plant it. Then you are going to push that knowledge into scale. Hey, Laurentia, thank you. You are going to push that knowledge into scale, and when you get skilled, then you can deliver. When you get skills, then you can score. If you look at the footballers, those who always score, there's some kind of knowledge that they have. There has been some kind of training that they have had, and that's why they have become skilled, and that's why they get results. Entrepreneurship is like that. It's a skill game. It's a skill game. You have to build that skill. You have to make the right decisions with your finances. You have to make the right decisions with your business. You have to make the right decision with the product. You have to look at the market. You have to look at a lot of things. And all those decisions are going to be contingent on the kind of knowledge that you have been accumulating. And so if you're not getting the right kind of knowledge, if you're not spending your time to acquire proper knowledge, you are not going to be skilled. And once you don't have the skill, you're not going to get the results. It will be erratic. Today you win, tomorrow you lose. Today you win, tomorrow you lose. Why? Because you've not been intentional on building the right kind of knowledge, and that's how you develop your mind. And so, hey, Black, as for, yeah, but the only successful will admit that. Yes, so you are responsible for the results that you're getting, and much of it is coming from the mind that you have. If it's developed, your results will be developed. You'll get great results. If your mind is that weak, if you have not developed it, the results will be inconsistent. And so you win one, you face 1,000 times. You win one, you face 1,000 times, and time is going. If you look at developing countries, it's the same. There's no way Africa is going to beat the rest of the world if Africa keeps at this level of knowledge. The only way we are going to compete is because we start to go for the right kind of knowledge. We start to develop the mind of our people. If we are not developing the mind of our people, we cannot get that many people skilled to get results. And so at the individual level, it's the same way. If you're not getting proper information to develop your content, your mind, you are not going to get any results anywhere. Poverty is a proof that some people don't know something about money. That's why there's poverty. The moment they start to get the right kind of information, the right kind of skill, they can overcome the poverty. The moment your business, you start to make the right decisions with the money, the moment you start to get the right kind of information as to how money, is acquired, is multiplied, and is sustained, that moment you start to become successful with your business. And so you are, as an entrepreneur, you are developed as your mind is developed. Then never be deceived. We've been talked into a lot of mysticism. We've been talked into a lot of God will do it kind of thinking, and it has become the lifestyle of so many people. They have problem. Their only advantage, or they will sound like they are Christians. They will say, "Let's go and pray," or they will say, "We are going to go and declare fasting." After all those, if the knowledge is still the same, the results will not be different. The only way that you are going to get better results is because you have started to develop. Be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind. It didn't say that by prayer. So you start to develop. You only change the results of your life. You only change the results in your business when you start to develop, when you start to see the world differently, when you start to look, when you start to have different perspective. So the things that are breaking you today, the things that you're worried about, the things that you are stressed about, it's not because those things are bigger than you. It's the way you mentally process the circumstances, the things that are happening in your life. The moment you start to get bigger in terms of the way you look at the same issue, that issue becomes smaller. So if you have debt in your business, for instance, if you have problems, if people come to join the business and they start to go, if you're being conned all the time, if people are stealing your money all the time, if your clients are not paying you all the time, if you start a business tomorrow, it's doing well, it goes down, that's well today, tomorrow it goes down, that's well today. It's because there's something that you have not learned. There's something that you have not taken time to study and acquire. There's something. And so if you don't work on that, you will continue to have that kind of fallings, and you will start to blame things that you don't have to blame. The only thing that you have to do is that you have to start to develop your mind. And the more you are developing your mind, you see that a lot of things will start to make sense in your life. Because human beings, the mind is the program that you are running, that is running your life every day. And it's so complex. The moment the mind is programmed in a particular way, to change it is so much difficult. And that's why you have to be aware that everything that you have put in my mind, everything that my mind is processing every day, that is responsible for everything that is happening in my life. It's not demon, it's not Satan, it's not all those things that our people are blaming. Most likely that the problems that you're having in your business is because you have refused. I've met so many friends, I've met so many people, I have a lot of friends who, when they have challenges in their business, they're blaming everything but their mind. Why? Because they've not been taught that their mind and how it's developed is responsible for a lot of things in their lives. A lot. Yes, that's what they say. No, no. The people who are succeeding, they know something that the people who are not succeeding don't know. And so you are going to build the network that you build. If you're like me, no, I don't like this kind of people, it's a condition of your mind. The moment you start to expose yourself to newer knowledge, to different things, you start to see that no, I can build my network, I can build my skill beyond my village boys, beyond my classroom mate, beyond my schoolmate. I need, somebody looks differently from you. Somebody is smoking maybe cigar, somebody has different lifestyle. It's a very good skilled business person. You cannot say that because I don't drink, I cannot connect with them. No. They have a skill set that you need. When you go to the hospital and they have to operate on you, you don't ask of the religion or the lifestyle of the doctor. Because he has the skill and he can perform it, you don't question. So there are people who are skilled. There are people who have built things. There are people who have developed a character. They understand how a business is modeled, how a business is scaled, how a business is expanded. Connect with them. And this will come once you start to study and learn. And so stretch your mind. If you're struggling, it's okay. A lot of us would have to start businesses. Africa has no chance if you're not developing a lot of entrepreneurs who can use innovation, who can use strength, who can use character, who can use any ways and means which is legitimate and legal to build businesses and push themselves. It is going to take people like you to employ people. It is going to take people like me to employ people to overcome this thing that they are saying is graduate unemployment and all those, right? Because if you have completed school and you say that you're a graduate and you're not employed, I don't understand it. The problem is lack of the development of your mind. It's not really that there are no opportunities, but your mind has been set in a particular way that you cannot even look at any other way. Because you're a graduate, you cannot even sell ice water because you think that once you have a degree, it's the best thing that happened. That is a lie. If you really look at it in this world, those people who achieve anything, not necessarily because they have degrees or they went to school, it's because they wanted to become and they were ready to develop themselves to get the results that they had. Go to most of these African countries, the presidents don't even have degree. Go to Nigeria and see, Buhari does not have any degree. His vice president is a professor. So what are you talking about? The commitment to self-develop, to stretch your mind, to acquire is what is going to separate you from those who fail. So my name is Kwabena. I'm talking about your life as an entrepreneur is as developed as your mind is developed. So if your mind is not developing, you are going to fail as an entrepreneur. If you're not exposing yourself constantly to development, if you're not reading, if you're not launching out, if you're not studying, if you're not watching videos, if you're not listening to audios, if you're not learning the rare things that you need to succeed, you're not going to succeed. Business, the way it's a build-up, it's a skill development. You become skilled, then you start to get results. You become skilled, then you start to get results. You become skilled, then you start to get results. If you don't get the right knowledge, you're never going to get the results. Because you will not be able to have the skill. Because once you get skilled, then you start to get consistent results. If I look at the kind of mistakes the errors that we sustained and we went through, and thank God we didn't give up. Why? Because we were ignorant. We didn't know much. We were unskilled. And just, So the journey is you are starting from somewhere, you're unskilled, but then you have to know that you are not going to get the results until you start to get the right knowledge. And so the only impediment you have is you not being committed to developing your mind, because you are as large as the mind that you have developed. You are as large because you're processing that everything that you are, how you spend your time, how you spend your money, who you connect with, how you identify talent, how you connect with people, how you're able to negotiate and discuss, they're all coming from your thought pattern. So if your thought pattern is working against you, then you're not going to have results that you want. So just settle that the difference between me and where I want to go is likely the mind that I've not developed, because you cannot have a skill. The carpenter knows something. He knows, he sees this particular wood, he can identify it. That's knowledge. Then he's been able to build that knowledge into skill. That's why he can make that furniture. The mechanic, he can even hear the noise of the car and tell you where the problem is. Why? Because he has developed skill which was based on the knowledge that he acquired. The doctor is the same. The politicians have knowledge that the doctors don't have. Why? Because they use their time. So use your time to acquire knowledge. Use your time to develop your mind. Use your time to translate or to transform that knowledge into a skill. And then you'll be able to succeed. The business, they say, is difficult. It's difficult, yes. It's tough. It's crazy. You're going to fail a lot of the time. And in failure, you're going to learn something from it. And you continue to grow. But the main thing is not the failure. The main thing is that can you have that mind that is able to make the right decisions and the right choices, that is able to identify the right business opportunities and look at the time and see if it's the right time to launch that product or not. Are you able to identify the right partner? Are you able to project into the future that you want to win? Those things are the ones that are responsible for the business that you want to build, or the business that you're building. And so your only commitment to yourself, I think, should be that you are committing to have a lot of your time spent in processes that are developing your mind. If anytime that you have time, you're stretching, you're asking questions, you're developing, you're thinking, you're planning, you're studying, you're watching something. Those are the things that are going to give you leverage. No matter the impediments, no matter the struggles, no matter the challenges that you meet. If you have strong mind, you'll survive. You'll be there. Because at the end of the day, those who survive are those who are tough. And their toughness is coming from their mind. They have mind that can withstand pain and challenges because they have developed themselves. They are able to think differently about a very, very painful scenario, a very painful experience, big loss, big collapse, big failure, but they're able to think differently. Why are they able to think differently about that? It's because they have different knowledge. They have stretched their mind. They are tough. They're able to convince people. They're able to reconnect with the person who served them. So you are as developed as an entrepreneur as the mind that you have. So, and it's unlimited. The mind, you can't develop your mind to a limit. It's like, it has no end. So the more you stretch it, the more you go. The more you stretch it, the more you go. So if you have no connection, if you say that you have nothing, you have money, you don't have connection, you don't have any opportunity, as some people will say, you have the mind to develop. So convert that time that you have to stretch and develop your mind. Work on a product, work on a process, work on something. Always be engaged somewhere. Is either you're spending your time to get results, or you're spending your time to develop it. That's how I spend my time. Is either I'm reading, I'm stretching, I'm studying, I'm watching a video, I'm learning, I'm going for training, or I'm working. So that the sleeping and the jokes, I don't have time for a lot of the funerals and a lot of the weddings and a lot of the friends drinking beer, eating banku and kelewele. I don't have time for that now. Because if I don't put the time in to develop myself, if I don't put the time in to develop the business, I will fail, because the failure rate is very high. So when it's not working, it's not because something is against you. It's because you're not apportioning your time well to work on the critical things that must be worked on for the business to start to make meaning to you. So spend your time stretching your mind. Go for knowledge. Build that mind that you have. Go for stretch. Read. We are in the time of the internet. Even if you're sleeping, read an article. You get up in the morning, read something. Constantly engage yourself with the flow of knowledge, because the more you know any topic, just continue to stretch. Read on something. If you can just read about even how to manage your finances as an entrepreneur, how to study the African market, how to win in this kind of business. If you are constantly engaged in things like that, you will develop. And by the time you see it 5 years time, you have built repository of knowledge and of skill. Then you see that you can build structures, you can build systems, you can manage, you can work with the best of talent, and you are not intimidated. Why? Because you have spent your time to develop your mind. And once you continue to develop your mind, nothing can stop you. So if the results is not coming, you can't blame anybody. You just have to sit down and restructure your time and look at how much you're spending to develop yourself as an entrepreneur. Go for knowledge, stretch yourself. No matter the business is tough for everybody, even those who have billions, it's still tough. So don't worry about it being tough. What is important is when in the middle of the toughness, in the difficulties, what do you think? How do you think about whatever is happening? Do you feel like you are ill-equipped, you can't change anything? Or you think that it's a process that you can overcome if you continue to stretch yourself? So the choice is yours. If you start to blame all this and start to believe in all these things that everybody else will start to believe you knew, those things that they tell you to go for, you will lose the battle. If you start to go for all this stick, something, or something, malam, something, you will lose the battle. Because then you don't believe that you have any skill. You don't believe that you have anything responsible. You don't think that the responsibility is with you. I believe that if I'm meeting challenges and difficulties, the responsibility, getting the right kind of knowledge, the more I will succeed. And that I won't quit. Why? Because I've built it. The strength. And once you start to invest in yourself like that, nobody can take that investment from you. So thank you very much for watching. So you are as developed as an entrepreneur as you have developed your mind. And I'm not talking of classroom development, even though that may help in a way. Sorry, the network. So much of it will rest on you. Much of it will rest on you, how you are committing yourself to stretching your mind, developing your mind. Study the technology, study the money, study how to manage people, study the market, study the process. African market is different. Study the culture of the people, understand what the people want, whatever business that you're doing. Learn to develop your team. So much that you have to learn. And you cannot relax and rest and say that it doesn't matter, no, it's not the prophet, it's you. So thank you very much for watching. Go and study and be committed to building and stretching yourself. Business, a lot of us would have to start one. Because if you're waiting for a job, that job may never come. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you.